What happens when the places meant to protect minors become the very places where SA hides? This week, two separate cases inside American church circles exploded into public view. One involving a youth pastor accused of statutory rape, the other involving a former intern at one of the largest megachurches in the country, sentenced to more than 14 years in federal prison. And what ties these stories together is bigger and more uncomfortable than you might think. Stay with me because the details get darker and the questions get harder. We're discussing accountability, power, and trust within Christian institutions, not rumors, not social media speculation. These are documented cases, arrests, and federal sentences. And before we go any further, let me say this clearly. This conversation is about protecting victims, not attacking faith. Silence is what allows SA to grow. Let's start in Tennessee. Last week, a 48-year-old youth pastor in Tennessee was arrested and charged with statutory rape involving a 17-year-old girl. His name is Wesley Brobeck, and until recently, he served as a youth and children's minister at Freedom Fellowship Church in Greenville, Tennessee. According to police, Brobeck was arrested at his home on Saturday night. He now faces charges of statutory rape and sensual battery by an authority figure. And that last charge matters, because authority changes everything. This wasn't a random interaction. This was someone entrusted with spiritual leadership, mentorship, and influence over minors. Here's where the story takes a turn. Police say they only learned of the alleged misconduct after the church itself contacted law enforcement. Church leaders reportedly obtained information indicating Brobeck was engaged in the offense, and once they did, they acted quickly. Brobeck was immediately fired. Freedom Fellowship's lead pastor, Scott Childs, confirmed the termination publicly and stated that the church is fully cooperating with authorities. He wrote, quote, "We are committed to doing what is righteous according to the commands of Scripture and want to assure you that this particular case is no exception." Now pause there, because that statement sounds reassuring. But it also raises a question we'll come back to. Brobeck was transferred to the Jefferson County Jail, where he remains in custody. Police emphasized the seriousness of the case and stated their thoughts are with the victim and her family. And that's all we know, for now. But before you think this is an isolated incident, here's where the bigger picture starts to form. Because this isn't the only church-related SA case making headlines this week. While one pastor sat in a Tennessee jail cell awaiting legal proceedings, a federal judge in Oklahoma was preparing to hand down a sentence that would last more than a decade and change lives forever. And the details of that case are even more disturbing. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, Austin Ryder Sewell, a former intern at Life Church, was sentenced on January 16th to 174 months in federal prison. That's more than 14 and a half years. In addition to prison time, Sewell will face lifetime supervised release, must register as an ex-offender, and was ordered to pay $1,500 in restitution to the victims. Life Church, for those unfamiliar, is one of the largest megachurch organizations in the United States, with over 40 campuses across 12 states. It's led by Pastor Craig Groeschel. Sewell worked as an operations intern at Life Church's Midtown Tulsa campus beginning in January 2025. But here's the key detail. Authorities didn't uncover this through church oversight. They were alerted by Kick, a social media platform. Kick sent more than 10 cyber tips to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Those tips included videos depicting the SA of minors, shared through multiple accounts. Investigators later identified Sewell as the user behind those accounts. And what they found next is difficult to hear. Authorities discovered 98 videos and 24 images involving infants, toddlers, and young children. At least 5 of the victims were identified by name. Federal agents arrested Sewell in July 2025 after searching his home. Multiple electronic devices were seized. Investigators also found several AR-15-style rifles in his basement bedroom. During questioning, Sewell reportedly told investigators that he wasn't motivated by sensual gratification, claiming instead that he was bored and lonely. Let that sit for a moment. 2 different states, 2 different churches, 2 very different roles. But the same underlying reality: positions of trust, access to vulnerable people, and systems that often react after harm is done. Life Church has stated that it learned of the charges after Sewell's internship ended. What remains unclear and unanswered is whether the congregation was ever informed or when exactly his role ended. And this lack of clarity is what fuels public frustration. because when churches stay silent, people fill in the gaps. These two cases, though very different in their details, point to the same critical issue: minors' safety in faith communities. Let me be absolutely clear. The vast majority of pastors, church staff, and volunteers are good people who would never harm a minor. But that's exactly why we need robust systems. Because predators often seek out positions of trust and authority to gain access to victims. In the Tennessee case, the church did contact law enforcement when they learned of the allegations. That's the right response, and it should be the standard everywhere. In the Oklahoma case, the discovery came through external monitoring by a tech platform, not through church oversight. Both situations raise important questions about prevention, not just response. What can churches do? First, comprehensive background checks for anyone working with minors, no exceptions. This includes staff, volunteers, and interns. Second, clear policies that prevent one-on-one situations between adults and minors. 2 adult rules, visible spaces, open-door policies. Third, mandatory reporter training for all staff and volunteers. Many people don't know the signs of ABUSE or their legal obligations to report. Fourth, transparent communication. When incidents occur, congregations deserve to be informed in appropriate ways that respect both victim privacy and community safety. Fifth, create cultures where minors are believed and empowered to speak up. Many ABUSE cases continue because minors don't feel safe reporting. These cases will continue through the legal system. Victims and their families are navigating trauma that will take years to heal. But we don't have to wait for the next case to act. Every church, regardless of size or denomination, can take steps today to become safer for minors. It starts with acknowledging that no community is immune, and that our commitment to children's safety must be active, not passive. If you're part of a faith community, I encourage you to ask questions. What safeguarding policies does your church have in place? How are volunteers screened? Is there mandatory training? How would SA allegations be handled? These aren't comfortable questions, but they're necessary ones. I want to hear your perspective in the comments. If you're part of a church community, what safety measures have you seen that work well? What gaps have you noticed? What do you think churches should prioritize? This conversation matters. Share this video with your faith community, your small group, or anyone who cares. And if you found this coverage valuable, subscribe for more content on accountability and transparency in institutions that shape our communities. Thank you for engaging with this difficult but crucial topic. Protecting children isn't optional. It's our collective responsibility.